And basically my work is to help people navigate through pain and suffering. And most of my colleagues and friends believe that my work as a clinical psychologist must have informed my work as a poet or as an artist, but it's the other way around. My work as an artist has actually made me realize more about human mind, human emotions, and human life. Because long before I was introduced to Freud, Lacan, William James, and other great psychologists, I was already introduced to, I had already met Faz, Ghalib, Iqbal, William Shakespeare, lots of them who had actually made me realize what actually human life, human emotion, and how to deal with that. And that's why today when we are standing here and paying tribute to a personality like this by poetry and by music, I started questioning myself, why poetry? What exactly does it teach us? Is there any wisdom in today's world, in today's, when it's a very mad world, is there any wisdom by poetry that we can share? And I know when I work very intimately with human mind, I know that the basic work that I do is that we can't change reality, we can't have control over reality altogether, but what we can have is the control over our response. And poets teach us how to respond to reality. They don't teach us to respond the way people expect or world expect you to respond to it. Like for example, if someone is questioning your identity, your existence, instead of becoming offended and being angry, Ghalib teaches us that say to them, वो पूछते हैं हमसे कि गालिब कौन है, कोई बतलाए कि हम बतलाएं क्या? If your lover or your partner is complaining that why don't you love me the way you used to, which often is the basic when I see couples in therapy, this basic problem when I see them. Past teachers us tell them, मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ने मांगी. And when you are sad and hopeless and there's nothing that you can see in future, Fast tells us, कि लंबी है गम की शाम, मगर शाम भी तो है. And this is the response that how we respond to the world, to the agonies of the world, to the times when it's full of hatred. And poetry doesn't only talk about love. It talks about every emotion, be it hatred, jealousy, envy, or anger or rage. But it teaches you not only to talk about it. It teaches you that talk about it in as beautiful way as you can. Instead of throwing ink on others, instead of banning something, instead of killing people, just talk about your emotions. It's all right to be vulnerable. There's nothing wrong in being ashamed about your feelings. Talk about it. And when you talk about it, try to be as beautiful as you can. This is the belief that I have in poetry. And that's why I feel that if we talk, and I was listening to my fellow poets, it's a brilliance I can only aspire to achieve. But this is the belief that this is the heritage that poetry has. This is the wisdom that we are sharing with the world. So in that context, I'm going to share the first poem with you. It's a poem about a child who is. I'm actually from Kashmir, so I've seen lots of people going through lots of pain, and I've been raised in the most difficult times, 90s. There are lots of people who are missing in Kashmir, and we call them enforced disappearance. The poem is about a child who is trying to make sense of the absence of his father. The title of the poem is "You Have Enforced Me to Disappear." They say you have disappeared, an enforced one. But why do I find you everywhere? I find you every morning when I open my eyes to the intense smell of that pungent oil, which you always wore with rural arrogance. I find you in your cold room, near your desk, in your hasty scribbled notes you used to make while staring at the black and white picture of my mother when she was in prime. I find you in the lawn among whispering flowers you used to tender and stubborn weeds you used to gently weed out. I find you in my mother's eyes when she tries to hide her real tears while the tears coiling down her cheeks, with the tears coiling down her dry cheeks while cutting onions for the dinner, which doesn't taste same as it used to when you were here. I find you in that ancient field where a chinar still stands like a testimony of your presence, under whose shade you and your friends used to smoke. The smoke is still entangled between its labyrinth branches. I find you in those folklores which you used to narrate to me every night, in which moon was my personal football, and the enormous vastness of space my playground you gifted to me. I find you in the long pauses and ominous sighs of my sister when your disappeared name echoes suddenly in the ancient tales of my grandmother. I find you ominously omnipresent, everywhere. I don't believe that you have disappeared. In fact, they should look for me. I am lost somewhere. With your presence everywhere, I am enforced to disappear. One of the things that I've realized while working with people, and when they come to you and open up themselves like anything, with all the trust, things that they tell you they haven't told their partners, their family members, they open up to you. What I realized, the most courageous act that you can do in today's world is to love. We feel that it's very common and it's very normal. No. Intimacy and loving someone is the most courageous act. So there's a point that I believe that this is my love, this is where I love, and that's what I want to share with you. And keeping in tune with the title of the evening. The title of the poem is Declaration of Fundamental Rights. Marinate me, slice me, grind me, knead me, crush me to your heart's content. Turn me into a powder for your lovely skin. Burn me when you are cold. Use my ash to wash your beautiful body. Put me in your tea instead of sugar. Drink me when you are thirsty. Turn me into your nail paints. If sun is harsh on you, make an umbrella out of my skin. Wrap me like a warm coat if it is too cold. Melt me in your ink pot. Write your soulful songs out of me. Put your mouth to my mouth. Play your song on this flute. Do whatever you want to do. Today, I have given up all my rights to myself. Being born and brought up during 90s in Kashmir, one of the most difficult times, and we have seen very closely how torture did affect us, like when we were children, when we were small, and how that was ingrained in our minds in every possible way. And some of the incidents where you also had to face torture. One of the very, very tragic events where I saw torture very closely to myself and to my friends, that made me to write this poem. Although that time I couldn't make sense of anything, what was happening. Today, when I reflect back, and this is what I wrote. The title of the poem is Scratch My Retina, in conversation with my torturer. I am not caffeinated mornings of your lazy yawns printed across newspaper you read, benevolent with daily doses of delusional truths. I am not the subject of your calculated headlines, the impassioned, uncivilized person in your crafty columns and precisely captured photographs. I am not a footnote you quote tirelessly in defense of your education. Your obsession only amuses me like a dog playing in the park, fetching the ball religiously every time it is thrown away. Life is a secret. We all deserve it. I have a secret place called freedom. I live there. Don't bother to search it. The map is etched on the walls of my retina. You want my secret? Look straight in my eyes and scratch my retina. most often when you are a Kashmiri and the way you experience your society and the reality also kind of forces you to form your own identity. In other places, you might not be as Lucknowi or as UPI or as Bihari. As Kashmiri, you have to emphasize because it's the way we have been raised. Sometimes when you experience other emotions, love, hatred, they all get mixed up. And this is how I express this. Kashmir, the nation of lovers. It doesn't settle down. It doesn't satisfy. My hunger for you is insatiable. Uncontrollably, I make love to you till I find Kashmir in the valley of your mouth. I kiss the soil of your tongue inconsolably, like a mad poet in exile. The minarets of Hazrat Bal are wet with the moisture of my hysterical breaths. I can't stop making love to you. That would be unpardonable sin. Under the canopy of my unfailing passion, you shrink like maid in Dal Lake. I hold you in my arms like water holds the smooth curves of magnificent houseboats. There are shines in your eyes. Your tears cleanse me 5 times a day. I enter the sacred mosque, standing under the perfect, beguiling arches of your Kashmiri eyebrows. Our love is the last cry of freedom, the last voice of certitude. From a blooming flower to a sharp-edged knife, we resist with all the evolving rituals of love-making. Every protest starts with the conspiracy of our lips, till our sloganeering bodies color every wall of Lal Chowk with the verses of our love. You are the country I never had. You are the nation I aspire to. The last point that I want to share before I leave and is one of the basic, as Anuradha also shared, that poets give us an imagination of the future that we always hold on to. Hum dekhenge. It's in future. And what if is the most important part of our imagination as a human being that saves us, kind of also makes us feel okay, sab theek ho jayega. One of the points that I've written, it's a very small point, its title is What If? What if every moment we live together becomes a kiss or a long-awaited hug? What if all the winters we have borne together becomes a cold memory like a book on the desk? What if all the letters we wrote to each other become butterflies for me to search in every garden? What if all the pain of losing you becomes an empty cellar, bigger than my empty house? What if all the doubts between us turn out to be lies? What if I find you reading my poems in the balcony of my winter sun? Thank you.